Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Deeptown Divers VR show. In this show, we talk about tech news, VR, AR, AI, and all of the goodness and all of the news we love to talk about. And today, I'm super honored and excited to have with me Alvin Wang Graylin as a guest. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And we're going to discuss a lot of stuff about VR, headsets, hardware, software, and all of the other things. So stay tuned for that. So hello, Alvin. Thank you for coming to our VR show. And let's dive straight into it. Could you tell us how did you get into VR? You are a China president of HTC. You have 20 years of management experience. You do mobile division in HTC. And how did you get there? How did you get into VR and all of that stuff?
So I actually was first exposed to VR almost 30 years ago. Back in 1991, I was able to, I was at the University of Washington and was able to go and participate in the HIT lab under Tom Purness. So he had just recently opened the HIT lab. It was the first VR-oriented research lab that's non-military research lab in the United States, and I was able to get exposed to some really cool technology there, and it actually really made me interested in the potential of VR to change the world. And in fact, I did my research paper there on how to apply VR to disrupt education and really create a new way to educate. And I remember the conclusion of my paper was, within 10 years, all the schools will be using this stuff, and we're going to be learning in a much better immersive way. So as we all know, I was wrong. But I think it's starting to happen now.
Yeah.
And in fact, with what's happening with the COVID situation and with the social distancing, there's now more of a need than ever to apply VR to remote learning, as well as to remote work and work from home and all these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the first try of the VR market, let's say, in industry, didn't go that well. But I think it was an important one. It was important to try things out and kind of to introduce the technology and the potential to people. But right now, with advancements of mobile screens and stuff, we are actually getting there very fast. And of course, in my opinion, VR is getting already mainstream pretty quickly, even though many people call it the beginning.
I don't think it's mainstream yet.
But it's getting there. We are getting there, right? We're steadily.
The trajectory is good.
Trajectory is.
And I think that the last 6 months has made it much more apparent, I think, to the rest of the world who are not VR enthusiasts, the value of something like this. And for instance, just events like what you're doing right now, this type of a format is something that will become more and more the norm. In fact, we did for the Chinese government yearly meeting, we actually did an interview show for the China People's Daily with the leaders of the country, using a VR format, right? So, and then it was then broadcast on live TV. Right?
Oh, that's amazing.
So this type of format, in terms of for concerts, for conferences, for interviews, for shows, it's going to become more and more the norm.
All right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think, we both are in completely different locations on the planet. And yet we are present here, with the audience, and we are discussing topics, which is already an amazing advancement in the technology. It just shows that technology is already maturing and letting us do those things, which is great, of course. Okay, so tell us, how did you get to HTC? What led you to to be the executive there, and how did you get there?
Well, I mean, to make a long story short, I've been in the tech industry for 20-something years, and have done 4 different tech startups. But right around end of 2015, I had sold my last company and was actually in Taiwan for a project, and was able to meet with Xie Wang, who was the chairman for HTC, and she was looking for somebody to run the China business for this new VR business she's got. And then when we started chatting, we started to realize that our long-term goals for this technology was very similar. I know there's a lot of companies who really see VR as a gaming machine, but we both saw it as something that was actually much more impactful, much more transformational, that would really be able to solve a lot of the world's problems and make life better, make education better, make education more democratic around the world. To allow anybody to have access to good quality education, as well as using it to create a better working platform for anybody can work around the world and be able to work remotely for people around the world, to allow it to be used in healthcare, to help with mental health issues, to help with training. Those kind of applications, we both agreed that's where the long-term value of VR is, versus just entertainment.
Sure.
And I think after we really felt like we aligned, the role also made a lot of sense to me, because I really feel that China is one of the places that would adopt VR technology faster than a lot of other places, just as it did for mobile technology and mobile payments and e-commerce and all these other things that's happening. Electric vehicles, all these things are happening faster in China than anywhere else. So we agreed that it really was a good match, and I think working for Cher is also a privilege for me, because I think she's able to give a lot of autonomy to her team and really let people go with it. And we've been able to do a lot of fun things in the China team, and be the first to release a lot of products ahead of other markets, because we created a more entrepreneurial culture for the team in China. And when I came, there was only 5 people in the VR organization, and now we're a very full organization with over a couple hundred people here. So,
amazing.
I think it's been a fun ride, and I think it's going to be even funner going forward.
I must say, for me, the first true VR experience I had, which actually shaped the future, and that's partially why I started Somnium. I've been a gamer for 20 years, but virtual worlds gamer, let's call it like this. It's not even a game, just a participant in virtual worlds like Second Life, Ultima Online and stuff. But around about in the end of 2016, I think, the HTC was on a roadshow showing the Vive pre-production version of Vive to people, and I had a chance. I forced myself, because you were doing guys it only for the press, and I was not the press, and I was on IFA due to some other business meetings, and I saw HTC stand. I said, "Oh, all right." So I came in and I said, "Can you guys give me a demo?" And said, "No, you're not. You're not a press guy. Do you have an appointment?" I said, "No, I have no appointment. Let's do one." They said, "No, it's not possible." And then I heard that one girl was speaking Czech, where I was living. So I told her, like, "Is there a way? I really need to see that." And I was already involved in some other VR startup a bit. I was an investor in some other VR startup, the 360 camera startup. Let's call it like this, half like a VR startup. Yeah. And so we agreed, and I came next day at 8 in the morning, and I had 15 minutes of full room scale experience, and that moment I never will forget. And I put the headset down, and I said to myself, "Oh my God, okay, everything we read in the books will be possible within 5 years. Like almost everything we've dreamed about." And many people will have headsets on their tables next to their mobile phones and computers. I really had this kind of vision, and I immediately applied it onto social worlds, like the virtual worlds I was participating in. I said, "Oh, finally, this will be possible to do in VR." So that's how I started to get into the VR, and I immediately, of course, ordered one, and the rest is history. But yeah, so at that time, and I think that kind of leads us a little bit towards like the HTC hardware of things, because at that time, this was the state of the art. You guys were by light years away from any competition out there quite, I mean, Oculus was the only one almost there. So, and they were really nothing interesting
at
at that
time. They were using the Xbox controller at the time. So
exactly.
It was definitely a very different experience.
Exactly. And the HTC Vive headset at that time was designed so well that it works so well even now. I mean, I have still the first generation HTC, that headset I still have, and it works. And my question is like, what is the what is the strategy, I guess, for HTC in the hardware business right now? Because I know you guys are quite big in China, not so big in the rest of the world at the moment. How do you see the landscape of VR headsets, and how do you want to move in other markets? What is? Can you talk about it a little bit, because this is a very interesting topic for me, and I guess for others too.
Sure. I mean, I think from the hardware perspective, we're actually still one of the top 3 players in the world. So we're definitely the dominant leader in China in terms of both market share and ecosystem leadership. But we still have very good distribution as well as install base all over the world. And we also, not just beyond hardware, we also have our own Viveport store, as you know, which is one of the 2 or 3 top leading content stores as well, with thousands of pieces of content on there. And it's the only store that actually works across multiple pieces of hardware. So it's designed to be an open system. In fact, even Oculus devices can download from our Viveport store. Now, I think going forward, things are going to start to change a little bit, where I think the standalone business, the standalone devices will become increasingly important, as we can see over the last year or so. But you have companies like Oculus who are I guess very focused on a kind of a lower end product, and they're somewhat subsidizing the hardware so that they can get it out to more users. I think that's actually a good approach, and it's very good for getting more consumers to be interested in that the VR segment. But we feel like there's probably still a need in the business-to-business section. Those companies who want to use it for training, for remote work, for medical, for defense, for healthcare, whatever, right? I don't know if the products that are designed for a very low-end consumer business necessarily will meet their needs, at least from what we see. So as you can see with our Focus Plus product, we've more targeted towards the B2B segment, and with our Vive Pro, we were the first to actually create a business-specific higher-end product that goes beyond the consumer use. In fact, we had released a business edition of the original Vive shortly after, which launched initially in China. So we were the first to launch a business-specific product in China. In fact, this is also why China adoption has happened much faster in the business-to-business segment. We were probably about 70% of our business in China is in the B2B space. Whereas,
interesting.
For the rest of the world, actually, the consumer segment is the bulk of the volume. But in China, it is actually the opposite, right? It's kind of flipped around in terms of proportions. So, I think in going forward, we'll continue to still have both consumer and enterprise products, but we feel that we'll probably, at least in the near term, spend a little bit more effort on creating higher-end products that really meet the needs of the more premium users or prosumer users. But we feel like we can work with our partners through the Wave program to support the lower-end consumer needs. So I don't know if you're familiar with our Wave program, which has about 6 or 7 hardware manufacturers right now that are using our software technology, our runtime technology, our store to integrate into their lower-end hardware. So companies like Pico, iQIYI, Skyworth, Deeptown, they're all using our software systems to support their standalone development, as well as their all-in-two kind of the tethered headset development. And the other thing is we're even selling controllers to iQIYI. Their latest 6-DoF controller is actually using our Vive Focus Plus controllers with their headset. To enable a full 6.6 experience. So we feel like together with us, doing our own hardware for the higher end, and then doing software for the entire, both business and consumer segment, as well as working through our partners for the lower end hardware. We can meet the needs of both the price sensitive segments at the lower end, as well as the more demanding segments at the higher end.
Okay, interesting. There are several facts you said which I obviously didn't know, and it's interesting to hear. How do you see companies like Xiaomi, Huawei, and others like in China? Do you have cooperation with them? Do you think that they will enter VR market? Because from the outside's perspective, when I see those companies, and they've done a pretty amazing job in innovating in the mobile phone industry, for example, rapidly. Sure. They overtaken, even Samsung and stuff. But how do you see them entering VR market if you think that they will, or maybe you?
Well, I mean, if you look at Xiaomi, they had worked with Oculus on the Go product, right? But right now, I think they've essentially discontinued both the product for Xiaomi as well as the Oculus in the rest of the world. But I haven't seen Xiaomi do anything more on the VR side, at least nothing public. And with Huawei, they've also last year launched their Huawei Glass product, which is a more thin and light pancake viewer device. But it's only a 3DoF device. So far, it has not had a huge traction in the marketplace. I like their design. I think
the design is amazing. Yeah?
The lightness and the look and feel. It actually looks a little bit like what you're wearing
right
now.
Not a sponsored gig.
Yeah,
so.
but, yes. But I think the limitation of the 3DoF experience is what's holding them back. In fact, yesterday, I just spoke at Huawei's yearly kind of key partner conference. And I gave them that feedback, and they agreed. They actually want to do more with us and really work together to create products that are going to meet the real customer needs, right? And to also take advantage of all the content out there. If you think about it, all the thousands of pieces of content out there have been made for 6DoF devices. Yes. So trying to really create only a 3DoF viewer device is a little bit limiting.
Yeah,
but we don't see any of them as competitors. Honestly, I think the XR ecosystem needs a lot more companies in it so that we can help each other grow and help this industry grow, help the entire ecosystem grow. And it's going to take a lot of investment. And in fact, even what Oculus is doing in terms of subsidizing the hardware, I think it's a good thing because it allows more people to get exposure. It allows the software developers to have more revenue stream, which in the long term will make the entire tide float, and everybody on it will benefit. So I think each of us are playing a different role in terms of helping support the growth of this ecosystem, and the more the merrier, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I absolutely agree with you that right now the growth is needed, and letting people know what the hardware is capable of and what they can have as an experience is, I think, it's important. So, yeah, everybody who is in the hardware business should be trying to do that. But maybe last question about the hardware and HTC, because just my personal interest, you are obviously, that HTC sometimes is being criticized for having high prices of hardware. The headsets are priced really high in comparison to competition. And in certain circumstances, sometimes things don't work as well as, for example, like in tracking, for example, like with Cosmos and stuff. And I had Cosmos on, and it has a very nice screen, but the tracking was an issue, I remember. But how do you see that from the HTC perspective? I'm sure you hear that. How do you as a company react to that, and how do you plan to evolve hardware in the future given that feedback, for example?
Yeah. So I mean, I think from even 2016, our products were priced higher than some of the other competition, and I think it was duly justified because we, as you mentioned, we were significantly ahead of the competition in terms of the experience and so forth. I think over the last year we haven't done as well. I agree. I think the Cosmos product, the launch was not optimal. We'll just say that. But going forward, I think our our goal is to continue to create and deliver the leading experience in the industry. And the leading experience will be slightly more premium priced. Some companies have other types of revenue sources like advertising that can subsidize their hardware, and so they can make it more affordable. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every company has that luxury, right? Where we don't have a billion users that are giving us advertising dollars, so we actually need the products we sell to be financially viable. So I think, but even though if you look at the cost, if you look at the pricing of the products, I mean, they're actually less than the price of phones that people are buying. But I think a lot of people, their relative comparison is to things like PlayStation or Xbox, which are console-based businesses that are a closed system, right? In a closed system, the hardware cost may be less, but then you're closed in a software ecosystem where you're spending multiple X of the hardware on software. And that's how those companies are able to have a positive financial situation. In the case of VR today, it's actually, at least the way that we are working is in an open system. So you can get content from anywhere. You're not locked to having our own store and having premium prices. And so, and because you can go to multiple stores, we only get a small fraction of the potential software revenues. So I think for us to be a viable company, we need to make sure that, what we do and what we sell and how we run our business, we can be a long-term viable company. So, so I think it's a little bit unfair for some of the maybe console-based gamers to say whether this is expensive or cheap. If you look at the components of a standalone device, it actually is all the same components, if not more, actually more components than a high-end phone, and with more tuning that's needed because it's very custom to a very high requirement of having higher refresh rates and higher processing power that's needed. And so I don't think the prices are unfair. We just need to get people to understand the value of what they're getting. I think that's been really the mistake from the VR vendors' perspective is that a lot of the vendors are very price sensitive, but they're not necessarily value sensitive. And so this is what we are starting to change going forward, is that we want to spend more time creating content that creates immediate value for the customers. And so now they see why they need to spend or why they should spend this money, because it gives them back more than they spent. Right. If you know, a couple weeks ago, we just announced our XR suite, which is the Vive's kind of entree into the software business, and we will create essentially a suite of daily use apps that creates immediate value for customers that buy our products, and even for customers that don't buy our products, because it will be an open software system that allows for any brand, any platform to be usable, including non-VR systems. Right? I think that's going to change the economics of the entire situation, where now maybe we can somehow use some of the software revenues that we get from the XR suite to maybe subsidize hardware, kind of like what's been done with the console model. But that's going to take some time for that to happen.
Sure, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I think as the market grows, the economy of scale will also kick in, and the prices will continue to go down as well. So I'm actually not as concerned overall in terms of pricing. I think at the end of the day, we just need to focus on delivering value that is very quickly perceivable by the customer. And when they do that, they will no longer care as much about the price. I'll give you one example. One average business trip today in the U.S. is around $1,000 for a domestic trip, and around $3,000 to $4,000 for an international trip. Yeah. If they can put on a headset and reduce one trip, right, whether local, domestic, or
absolutely,
or international, they've already paid for a high-end device. Yeah. Right? So I think that's the kind of economics that people will think about. I'll give you another example. The average office space cost in major cities is somewhere between $10,000 to $20,000 per employee per year. Now, if I can let my staff work from home so that they don't need that office space. I can take that budget and put it into their capital assets, into computers, into VR devices.
Yeah.
And so now they can actually spend less total budget, but have more freedom and create higher profitability for the companies. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's something that economics is very easy to prove.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see the logic there, and I think I would say on behalf of myself at least, and maybe I'm sure by talking to people, I'm sure on behalf of many our viewers, is that people want HTC to succeed. Like VR enthusiasts want, and it's genuinely like this. And for me, HTC has a sweet spot in my heart because you guys came up with a killer product in the beginning of VR, and you really showed the way and you led the way towards that. And yeah, I think people are ready to to support and buy your products, and I'm pretty sure we'll see more of the exciting hardware news. Maybe you'll share something with us today. What is happening? What is coming up in the some exclusives maybe? But yeah, do you have any exclusives for us here?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not really allowed to talk about non-public products, but we did release a number of new products this year with the Cosmos Elite, and we talked about the concept products for our XR plate that brings in the world in a high definition way. We also talked about the Proton product, which is our kind of thin and light product. So there are definitely things that are in the works. I can't really go beyond what we've publicly talked about, but I think you'll definitely see new things coming in 2021 from us.
Mm-hmm.
These I think XR devices are a little bit slower renew cycles, what we see with phones, right? Where phones, every year you have a new phone. Maybe every 2 years you have a brand new generation, but every year you have at least a new model, right? I think you'll find that the things that we've delivered next year will have some significant improvements over what we've seen in the past, and we strive to continue to be in that forefront of innovation in this industry. Just as I think in the phone industry, HTC was actually known as well initially to be the innovators. We were the first touchscreen phone, the first Windows phone, the first Android phone, the first 3G phone, and the first 4G phone to market. Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the innovation heritage that we took with the initial Vive in 2016. I think and with the Vive Pro and in fact with the Vive Focus and Focus Plus was also the first 6DoF standalone in the market. So we keep bringing in that innovation. I think you'll see in 2021 we will again bring in a new set of innovation that will get the ecosystem and the industry excited again.
Okay, amazing. I'm really glad to hear that. And yes, HTC phones were amazing, and I had several of those. Talking about mobile phones, you are, as I understand, you are also responsible for mobile phone division, or you are dealing with the mobile phone division of HTC. How do you guys see the future of HTC in mobile phone market? Because the mobile phone market became really aggressively dominant by competition, let's say like this, and even companies like Samsung, having some troubles to catch up with some other Chinese brands like Huawei and Xiaomi. What is? Can you talk about HTC plan on coming back into that market? Is there any plan to come back? I hope it is.
Well, just I think last week we had just announced, or maybe 2 weeks, I guess 2 weeks ago, we had just announced that we are now launching our first 5G phones.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have some new phones that are coming to the market, but it will start more in the Taiwan market first, and then I think there will be some that going to Europe. There might be some devices that go to the US. That's not clear yet. So I agree with you. I think the phone market is becoming a lot more mature, right? And even though we did a lot of work initially to help create the initial innovations, in the industry. But right now there are a few players that are, the top 4 or 5 players together is probably 90% market share.
Yeah.
So, and then there's, dozens of other players that are trying to share that last 10%. So it's not necessarily a very, easy system for companies to enter or re-enter. Right. So I think at least for the near term, our focus has really been more on the XR space. I think that's where the future of HTC, at least that we're betting on. And if you think about it, I think once devices get to kind of what you're wearing, something that's on your face, do you really need to have a phone, a traditional phone that we have today, where it's in your pocket and you bring out every time, right? There will probably be a device that links to the network, and a 5G or 6G network, but you don't necessarily need a screen on it, and you don't necessarily need to have the devices, have 2 separate devices. They will definitely be interlinked in some way. So I think that the future will then reintegrate again. In the near future, if you look at what's happening with the viewer devices, and the standalone VR devices, they will probably start having 5G chips that will be put into it, or high-end Wi-Fi chips that will then wirelessly link to a phone. So in which case then the merging of the industry will happen again. So I don't know if we need to be overly focused in trying to then recapture our spot in the traditional phone market, but maybe to integrate the telecom market, the telecom experience we've had over 20 years of building,
XR,
having that into the XR space.
I think
that's where the future is. And particularly now with all that's happening with 5G and cloud rendering, the experience and capability and heritage we have in the telecom space becomes so much more relevant. In fact, nobody else, I think, in the industry today has the right pedigree to be able to combine the 2 industries to create that next generation of products that will become the mass product. The PC-based product, I think, will be something that will continue to be useful.
Absolutely.
But it will not be in the hundreds of millions of units a year as what we see with the phones today. The next generation XR product that will be the kind of billion units a year will be glasses type products of what you're showing on your head. I think that device will definitely be telecom integrated.
Right. I agree with you, which brings us to another topic. I think that we see big companies right now moving towards AR, and we see, Apple, the leaks are coming from every side right now, and
sure.
we are definitely seeing that they're working on AR glasses, which will be connected or will not connected to the phone, but I think they will. Now we see Google acquiring North. We see Amazon trying to make some moves. Now, how do you see AR market in particular? Because I think the first move of those companies, or the mainstream companies, I think Samsung working as well on those. And how do you see the AR market, and how do you see HTC and AR market play? Or do you guys try to overjump or overleap that and go directly into this combination of VR, AR in one device with mobile phone connectivity type of thing?
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you looked at what we announced earlier this year with our XR plate on the Cosmos, you'll start to see kind of the approach that we're taking.
Right.
I think that there are kind of physics limitations right now in terms of a pure optical AR that makes it several years behind kind of pass-through AR in terms of field of view, in terms of experience, in terms of immersion. And at the end of the day, I don't think AR and VR are actually 2 separate technologies or 2 separate products. They're all part of that continuum, right? It's the virtuality continuum that's been talked about for 2 decades or 3 decades. So the 2 will merge, and the 2 will be in a device that will be thin and light, and it's hopefully an all-day type device. And I think the type of product that we announced earlier this year is kind of a first step towards that. when it gets announced and when it gets released, I think people will start to see maybe a slightly different vision of how to approach the AR experience, where we're maybe taking it more from the pass-through AR as the initial path to delivery versus a see-through AR. I think see-through AR has been around for a few years already. I mean, we had the Google Glass back in, I guess, almost 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I bought one of those devices. I mean, it was a cool device, and for its time, it was probably ahead of its time. But there are just physical limitations and difficulties of making a device that thin, that light, that delivers a full experience that people will be satisfied with. So, there are definitely rumors about a lot of companies for a number of years, but none of them have delivered yet. So, let's see which path will deliver faster to market. But at the end of the day, longer term, within 5, 6, 7 years, they will definitely integrate into one device that will be allowing for full immersive experience, full see-through experience, full pass-through experience, all in the same device. It will be here.
Yeah, I think so as well, and I think the critical parts of technology for good AR/VR headset is coming. We see already they are coming into the market, and they're being they're already coming into the lower price points, where, like, for example, a company like Nreal, they do AR glasses, right? And what they did is you can the glass are dim enough to provide you a good viewing experience for the movie, for example, even with the pass-through thing. So with the technology like many cars having right now, where you can just press the button and the windows go black, completely dim, right? You can use this, and then you basically you cut off your real life, and you can watch or immerse yourself into VR. So I think that's definitely coming. The question is what will come first, and players like Apple, if they bring just a see-through, put my apps on my face thing, that can shape a little bit the market of the VR rails, let's say. But I think definitely the converging all of that into one device is the future for the next 5 years, maybe. I would.
Yeah. So I mean, if you saw yesterday, the news just came out that Ready Player 2 book is coming.
Yes.
So I think that's actually good news, and it's one of my favorite movies, because we actually worked with Spielberg on the first Ready Player 1 movie.
Yes.
But if you look at the world that they're painting, that world was actually supposed to be around the 2020 was when it started, and the movie itself was like 2045 or something. But I think we're kind of on that path.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So within the next 5 to 10 years, the majority of our time will actually be spent in a device like that, which will provide us most of the contact that we have with the world, whether your work relationships or your social relationships, or even virtual travel. All of that will actually happen in these devices, so they will become increasingly important, and it will probably be the device that we will be most dependent on, even more so than we are on phones today. So I really am very hopeful for the potential of this technology to really change the way we live, and maybe improve the way we live, and also maybe create a little bit more equality in the way we live, right? If you look at what's happening today with all of the protests out there, it's really all about the increasing bifurcation between the rich and the poor, and between different races, and between different countries, and all of that is because we are often judging people by the color of their skin, or by their education, or by their clothes, or by the car they drive. But when you're in VR like we are right now, I mean, we could be anybody. We could look like anybody.
Have a nice suit.
Really,
Yeah.
Thank you for the nice design. You guys did a good job.
Thank you.
I actually have a suit that looks exactly like this. But I think then at that point, we're really now starting to judge each other a lot more on the content of our knowledge, and our intellect, and our creativity, which then opens up anybody in the world to be able to do any job, or to be able to have any conversation with anybody else. right? That makes the world a lot more fair and equal place, which then should create more social stability and more sense of satisfaction. All of these, are I think potential long-term benefits of having mass adoption of XR devices.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think part of our mission in Somnium in general is we want to let people live inside VR world and let them do and monetize their abilities the way they want to, no matter where they're located, who they are, and things like that. So this is part of our mission, and that's why we really try to grow economy here, and we try to let people actually make business out of their ability to be there. Apart from just hanging out here and having fun, there is a big business aspect behind that, and we think it's very important. And which brings us to social VR, let's say the metaverse of today. What is your view on all of what is happening in social VR worlds out there, like Outspace, Engage, VR Chat, Somnium? How do you perceive it? How often do you spend time there, and how do you see that in general in the market?
Yeah, I mean, I actually spend a time in a lot of the technology that you talked to, right, or that you talked about. This is my first time in Somnium, so I apologize. I should have came in earlier.
We're glad to have you here.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. But I think that there is right now we're kind of in the early stage where people are trying to figure out what is the best way to do social in VR, and also just what are the proper use cases for VR social. VR Chat is one of our portfolio companies, and they've done a great job. I think they have probably one of the largest user bases out there today, particularly for an independent company. We've learned a lot by working with them and partnering with them. In fact, they're part of our XR suite that we announced a couple weeks ago. Engage is also one of our portfolio companies and also part of our XR suite. And so I think these kind of companies are going to maybe we're trying to get them to do things beyond just pure social. I think for light casual social. Maybe what's already happening today with just on the web today, whether in a headset or not in a headset, maybe is enough. But when you're trying to attend a conference, when you're trying to learn something really important, the ability to get into an immersive experience where it's interactive, where maybe you actually having a headset that blocks you off from what's happening around the world makes you more focused and makes you more attentive to that content. I think those are absolutely beneficial use cases that is part social, but it's also part productivity driven, part collaboration driven. I think those are going to be very important use cases, and we've done studies that actually show once you put on a headset, your attention level goes up multi-x, and your ability to learn and remember information goes up significantly, like 50-60% increases. And so, if you're going to take a class, I would much rather do that than to look at a TV screen or look at a computer screen, which is what all the kids are doing today.
100%.
And then, feeling very bored. And then also for all the MOOC classes that's been around for many years, the completion rates are well under 5%, right? 5% of people who start classes actually finish them. And we need it to be much higher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I think there'll be an increased need for social spaces because what's happening with social distancing today is that we now no longer have that physical ability to interact. Yep. And so having a place of your own or having a place where you can go and hang out with your friends will be very important. Now, which one will win, I think, or which one will be the dominant player in that space is still unclear. But in social networks in general in the past, there's usually one or two or three companies in the world that becomes the primary destination. And it's just part of the network effect, right? The benefit of network is that it's like the square of the number of the members. So so the bigger you are, the more attraction you will be to the rest of the membership. So so we'll see what happens, but there probably will be a consolidation over the next 2 or 3 years. But just like when initial social networks happened, nobody knew who was going to be winner. When the initial like the various social networks, we didn't know who was going to win. There was always multiple players, but then one or two companies really jumped ahead. So I think having more players in the market will allow people to find a choice that really both help each other to grow, but also have maybe serendipitously find a solution that other people haven't been doing, and maybe also going beyond what people have been doing, where I think a lot of the current spaces are trying to essentially create something that looks like the physical world. Maybe there's a new metaphor that makes even more sense in VR that we haven't discovered. So again, just like where we said, it's the early stage in the VR industry where we need more hardware players. I think we also need more software and solution players that will bring whatever the winning solution is.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. And what is your take on metaverse? Because here we believe in Somnium that the metaverse is not a one company. The metaverse is many companies. So our vision is the player should be able to jump freely and seamlessly from Somnium to VR chat, from VR chat to Altspace, from Altspace to something else, whatever will exist there at that time, and just be able to experience those experiences in a pretty much seamless way, having their identity with them and stuff. How do you perceive metaverse of the future? Do you think it's like one company, or do you think it will be a collaboration, not a collaboration, but an open ability of people to jump between different social VR applications?
I think this is a complicated question. If we take the example of the metaverse of the Oasis in the Ready Player One, it was really just one company.
One company, yes.
Now, one company, but each of the worlds might be created by a lot of different companies. But there's probably somebody that is the infrastructure that links together these different worlds or these different players. Unless there's something that easily, seamlessly connects all of these worlds, it's very difficult for that to happen. Now, with the internet, there are some standard protocols that allow these different websites to be seamlessly connected, and the underlying networks are being supported and paid for by data centers around the world, by different carriers and different governments. So it is possible, but in terms of social network, where you need that social graph and the identity and the portability, right now the internet doesn't offer that, right? It doesn't offer the ability to carry your internet identity to all different websites, and everybody can have that exact same experience. I think what the internet provides right now is really more the plumbing.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like there's probably going to be somebody that either creates the standard that helps for that interoperability between these worlds, or there will be one big world, and then a lot of people will become subsidiary developers into that big world. So I really don't know which one is going to be, but for that standard to be created, we really need to have a lot more collaboration between the players in the industry today, and that hasn't happened. That may happen in the future, but it hasn't happened so far. But so it at least based on the current social network models, I think there will likely be 2 or 3 independent players versus a full metaverse in the idealistic way of kind of what's been presented in some of the novels.
Okay, yeah, I can see that happening. It's very hard to predict right now, of course, but we of course try on our side to to be open to as many cooperations with other worlds as possible. We did some examples with high fidelity in the past where we allowed people to teleport there and back from Somnium, which worked pretty well. I think it could happen. It just needs to, also the whole industry needs a little bit of time to mature and see more like which direction is it going for sure.
Yeah. So I think maybe we have this conversation in another 1 or 2 years. I think everybody will have a little bit better view, and we'll also have better direction and suggestion on which way to go.
Yeah, so maybe the last thing I would like to ask you is it could be a software or a tech. What makes you excited about, the future of hardware or software in the next, let's say, 2 years? What, apart from VR, as we discussed, and maybe some, XR products, what else are you interested in? What are you following, and what technologies do you think will thrive in the next years?
Well, I think the thing that longer term will have as much benefit to society as XR is probably in the biotech space, in the genetic engineering space. Being able to go in and fix diseases before they happen, being able to make us all live 10 or 20 or 50 years longer in a healthy way. I think all of that is actually coming down the road, and it will change our perception of time. It will change our value systems, actually. And being able to stay healthy for a longer time will actually also mean that we can maintain the knowledge that we've kept as we age, and be able to pass on to our future generations. It will probably also change the way and the time we have children and how many we have. All of these things, I think, is going to have a societal impact that we don't understand yet. So I'm actually quite excited about the potential that may be more than 2 years away, but that's something I think will have real long-term impact. And the other technology that a lot of people have been following is in the AI space, and applying AI both to things like making our computer vision better for tracking, for voice recognition, for hand tracking, and all these other things. But beyond that, I think moving into AGI, I think that's also something that will be quite interesting in terms of the societal impact of what happens there, where maybe 60-70% of the white-collar workers actually can be replaced by an AI system, at which point maybe our definition of work may actually be different.
Yep.
I'm not necessarily the dystopian future kind of idea where I think now the computer's going to come in and become our overlords. I really see AGI as something that will come and actually free us to do the things that we're better at, free us to do things that we want to do, and give us the time to do them. Instead of spending all our time at work, maybe we spend 2 hours a day at work or at some form of work. But most of our time can actually be done in terms of making ourselves better people, learning music, learning history, learning arts, that will make us more fulfilled, and spending more time with our families, spending more time to get to know each other, and then having more of a UBI type model where even if you're not working, because technology is being so advanced that we now have an abundance society, that not everybody has to work to survive. If you want to work because you want to contribute, you should do that, but you don't have to work just so that you have food to eat, right? I think that's the combination of kind of biotech or genetic tech together with AI, together with XR, will allow us, essentially anybody, to live any life they want without constraint, and allow us to be more fulfilled as a species longer term, and actually also keep us more interested in our life over time. And there's a lot of people that their daily life is going to work and getting an assembly line and putting in plug or a screw into a part, and that's all they do every day. That's kind of unfortunate, right? We should allow robots and AI to do those things and allow everybody to find what they're most passionate about in their life, and allow technology to enable them to do that, and allow the productivity of automation to finance the ability to have that freedom. I think that's what I'm most looking forward to. It will definitely take more than 2 years for that to happen, but I think that can actually happen within the next 10 to 20 years. And the life that we know today, the way that we live our life, will be very, very different.
All right, yeah,
and better.
I would love to see such a future. I also think that partially, I can hardly imagine at this moment, of course, maybe in 10, 20 years, I would say rather 20 years, that this could kind of start to form. But I think people will increasingly spend more time in worlds like this in VR, because for many people, and I always say, for many people in the world, their only experience like this, or in a disco, or like traveling, or having, you know, an amazing art gallery which we have right behind the wall, or like just further away, but it will be only in VR. They will not have, because of whatever constraints the world currently, you know, shows. Either it's a geographical one, or it's economical one, or both. Their only way to become a better and more educated human being would be through worlds like that, and creating those worlds together. So I think that's why I believe in the importance of those worlds, of social VR worlds, because people will want to spend more time in them. Even maybe they will have to. That, you know, that's not like, it's like today about the internet. If you want to do something, you kind of have to have at least a mobile phone connected to the internet, so that you have this, you know, information flow, and you can connect to the whole world. In 20 years, maybe you'll have to have a VR headset to actually be a part of the bigger society, which is happening somewhere else. Yeah. So that could be a future.
I totally agree, but I don't think it'll take 20 years. So this time I think it will actually be in less than 10 years.
I agree. If it's less, I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. I think once we had hit the certain form factor and certain price point, I think, like, for example, like a little bit closer to what Huawei is doing with their 3DOF headset, and maybe even thinner and stuff. Once that will cost $150 or something, it's a sweet spot. Like, everybody will have one, and you will be connected to the world. So I think 5G will play a role in it. I think we see all the technologies coming in right now, which will form this kind of metaverse in the next decade. All right, so I think that's it for today. I must say I had an amazing time talking to you. Thank you very much for coming.
Yes, likewise.
And of course, I have to say it as a show. Subscribe, tweet, like, retweet, whatever you do, all those social media things you guys do. Thank you for audience, amazing audience today we had with us. Thank you for being with us today. And until next time, see you on the other side of the monitor. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Thank you very much.
See you.